This is a Faith FM podcast. You're listening to The Faith Experiment with Robbie Berghan, right across Australia, right here on Faith FM.
Hello there. Thanks again for tuning in to The Faith Experiment right here on Faith FM, right across Australia. Or you could be listening to this on one of your favourite podcasting platforms, or even the Faith FM app. I would encourage you to get the Faith FM app because the app can go anywhere and you won't miss a second of Faith FM. Hey, if you're listening to this episode 59, I'm calling this episode Living Well. On this episode, we're going to explore some of the principles of living well. We've just started a new year, and a lot of people make the New Year's resolution of getting healthier. And so we're going to unpack that on this episode of The Faith Experiment. Now, if you have missed any of the previous episodes of The Faith Experiment and you want to catch up on some of the details, go ahead and get the Faith FM app, look for the podcasting section, and there you will find it, The Faith Experiment. You can also find The Faith Experiment on Spotify, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, all the regular suspects. Well, if you are tuning in for the very first time, The Faith Experiment is about putting faith into practice. And you might be asking, well, I get that part, Robbie, exploring ancient manuscripts and putting them into practice, experimenting with them and all that sort of stuff. But what are you going to talk about from the ancient manuscripts about health? What's the deal with that? Well, let's set the context. In the Bible, there is a manuscript called the Third Epistle of John. It's only a short little epistle. It's basically a fancy name for a letter. And in this epistle, John is writing to one of the elders of one of the churches that he oversees. And this is what he says in verse 2 of 3 John chapter 1, verse 2. He says, "Beloved, I pray that you may prosper in all things and be in health." Okay, so there it is. John is saying that he wants those who are listening to his letter being read out, and those who are reading this letter, he's saying, I would love for you to prosper in all things and be in health, just as your soul prospers. So notice this. There is a correlation between your soul prospering and your health prospering. And this is one of many teachings in these ancient manuscripts about living healthy. We're going to unpack a whole bunch of these texts and teachings in the course of this episode. But as usual, I have a brilliant free offer for you on this episode. The giveaway on this episode is a booklet. Well, it's kind of a cookbook, I guess you could say. And it's called Food as Medicine. Food as Medicine. This is a fantastic book. It gives you some excellent ideas about different types of food that are able to basically help you in being healthy. So hence the title, Food as Medicine. So I'm going to give away this free copy of Food as Medicine at the end of this episode. You want to stay listening right to the end and collect today's code word. The code word you'll text in to the Faith Experiment number 0488 45311. That's 0488 45311. And you'll get a code word towards the end of the show, and you text it in. The Faith FM SMS bot will ask you for your address, and we will get this book out to you absolutely free, no strings attached, because as we've just read here in 3 John chapter 1 verse 2, the Bible teaches that as our soul prospers, there's an expectation that our health prospers. And so that's what we're going to explore on this particular episode. Now, I want to be clear up front, I am not a doctor. I'm not even a dietitian. I have taken classes on diet and health and all that good stuff, physiotherapy and so on. But I am not an expert. I am going to share with you some principles from the biblical text, and then I'll share with you some findings and research from various other experts. But I have to do a disclaimer that you should consult your health professional as you try to implement some of the things we'll be talking about on this episode. Now, faith experiment and health. Well, I want to take you to this idea that people are looking to improve their health generally between January 1st and about January 14. It's after those dates that statistically your desire and your willpower to keep your New Year's resolutions somewhat fade away. So let's have a conversation in this episode about how we might be able to experiment just a little bit longer than the first 2 weeks of the year in improving our health. You know, I shared on a couple of episodes recently. End of last year, 2023, I found out I don't have the best health. I was quite surprised. I am, reasonably eating healthy, and I drink water and different sorts of things, and do a bit of exercise here and there. But it turns out that I haven't been living a balanced life. So I have been in the process of trying to change some habits in how I eat, how I exercise, what I drink, when I sleep, all these sorts of things. And so this is basically sharing some of the findings and some of the things I'm practically experimenting with this year, because I have 2 young children and I'd like to be around just a little bit longer to see them grow up and to pass on a few more, hopefully, pieces of wisdom. And I'd love to see them grow old. And that's not going to happen if I keep on the trajectory that I have been on, which is basically doing the minimal, what I thought was necessary to keep healthy, and paying the consequences for it. So this is kind of a joint journey with you and with me. So wherever you are in your health journey, now remember, I'm the Bible guy. I'm the faith experiment guy. This is a little bit different to what I normally do in this episode of the faith experiment, but I think there's some interesting points here. So to get started, the fact that you're still listening after the first 5 minutes of this episode tells me that you should congratulate yourself in having a little bit of courage to learn more about your health and to make some positive changes to your lifestyle. Most health outcomes are those that focus on all aspects of health: food, nutrition, exercise, fitness, mind, and heart. This is what we call a whole person health, and it's absolutely critical to living well, hence the title I've picked for this episode. But the question is, what is actually the term health? What do we mean? What does the Bible mean when it talks about health? Well, true health means living a full and abundant life, and free as much as possible from the burden of disease. It's about living more. So health is about living more. And, the World Health Organization put out a statement a number of years ago that said health, the definition of health is a state of complete physical, mental, and social well-being, and not merely the absence of disease or infirmity. So the point is, health is not just about not being sick. It's about having completeness or a wholeness of our physical, mental, social, and I'm going to add in there spiritual as well. Health is often underrated, and it's really a gift. So it's an underrated gift, which we often take for granted. And in many cases, including mine in various parts of my life, it's been neglected. And in that neglect, we actually work towards destroying it. And that's always the case until we lose our health. And, I grew up, as most of you would know if you've listened to the show long enough, I didn't grow up as a believer. And I couldn't have cared less what I ate, what I did for exercise or not. I mean, I was reasonably fit. I used to do martial arts when I was younger. Up to the age of, I think, 22, 23, I was doing martial arts for about 7 or 8 years. And, I had periods where I would eat healthy in my life in order to train or to prepare for a fight or some sort of temporary little miniature goal. But I can say with absolute confidence, overall, my life has been one of, let me eat what I want to eat and drink what I want to drink and do as exercise if I want to exercise and sleep when I want to sleep. And to be honest, for probably the first 30 to 35 years of my life, it didn't seem that there were any consequences to anything that I did. When I was in my early 20s, I could eat absolutely anything I wanted. I used to go to Hungry Jack's and get the value family meal, 2 Whoppers and 2 cheeseburgers and 4 drinks and 4 fries. I could eat what I wanted and I didn't put any weight on. I didn't seem to have any adverse effects. But, as I'll share through the course of this episode, life has a way of sort of catching up on you. And that's what we're talking about in this episode, how to live well. We're going to take a short break now. When we come back, we'll continue on this topic of living well, episode 59, The Faith Experiment. And don't forget, I have a code word for this fantastic little book, Food as Medicine. It will change your life. I'll be right back after this on The Faith Experiment.
You're listening to The Faith Experiment with Robbie Berghan, right across Australia, right here on Faith FM. Connect with us via text message on 0488 453 111. That's 0488 453 111. Or send an email to robbie@faithfm.com.au.
You are not hidden. There's never been a moment you were forgotten. You are not hopeless. Though you have been broken, your innocence stolen, I hear you whisper underneath your breath. I hear your SOS, your SOS. I will send out an army to find you in the middle of the darkest night. It's true, I will rescue you. There is no distance that cannot be covered over and over. You're not defenseless. Oh, I'll be your shelter, I'll be your armor. I hear you whisper underneath your breath. I hear your SOS, your SOS. I will send out an army to find you in the middle of the darkest night. It's true, I will rescue you. Never stop marching to reach you in the middle of the hardest fight. It's true, I will rescue you. I hear you whisper underneath your breath. I hear you whisper, you have nothing left. I will send out an army to find you in the middle of the darkest night. It's true, I will rescue you. Oh, I will never stop to reach you in the middle of the hardest fight. It's true, I will rescue you. Oh, I will rescue you.
This is The Faith Experiment with Robbie Berghan, right across Australia, right here on Faith FM. Listen live or listen later. Get the Faith FM app from your app store today.
Welcome back to The Faith Experiment. This is episode number 59. I'm calling this episode Living Well, and that was Lauren Daigle with the hit song Rescue. And you know, as I listened to that song during the break, it hit me that we don't always just need rescuing spiritually. Sometimes we need rescuing in our physical, in our social, in our emotional relationships as well. And so it's kind of fitting for this episode. On this episode, we are talking about health and its connection to the Bible. We start off by looking at that passage from 3 John chapter 1 where John makes this point. He always lays a principle out that there's an expectation that our souls prosper spiritually, and as they prosper, there's an expectation that our health prospers in correlation or in connection to that. And so before the break, we sort of looked at that term health. What does health actually mean? And we found that it's not just the idea of having the absence of disease or infirmity. It's about the idea of being complete physically, mentally, and socially, and spiritually as well. But, you know, a lot of younger people, and I was one of them until probably about, 5 or 6 years ago. I'm in my mid-40s now, but about 5 or 6 years ago, health was the last thing I wanted to talk about. It's the last thing I wanted to listen to, but listen to me carefully. It's something we should all be talking about this and all be thinking about this and experimenting with this at every stage and age of our lives. So there is a widespread agreement on the significance of good health, obviously, and improving the health of populations continues to be a major concern at local, national, and international levels. So if we know we should be healthier, how do we start? Most people have a pretty basic grip on the idea that there are certain behaviors that signify good health. For example, if people are physically active, if people are eating healthy food, making healthy choices, if they're avoiding things like smoking or vaping or drugs or alcohol, people get the idea that that's good for your health. But still, so many people find it difficult to implement these activities into their lives while knowing better. I'm the perfect candidate for this exact problem. I have known for the last probably 20 years about all the principles of how to live a healthy life. And yet I have justified decisions, or lack of decisions, I guess, to not exercise regularly, to not drink enough water, to not get enough fresh air, to eat healthy. I've sacrificed those good behaviors that I know are important, and you know are important as well, because they were inconvenient. But at the end of the day, the ultimate responsibility for your health is yourself. There's no one else that's going to take an interest in your health like you should. Because in the day, it's your life that we're talking about. It's my life I'm talking about. And we have to accept responsibility for our own health choices. So wherever you are on your, let's call it a health experiment, the ultimate person that has the ultimate to lose or ultimate to win is you. You could pass off your responsibility of your health to your health professional. And, it's important to have those sorts of people in your life. But I can guarantee you, no matter how good your doctor is, how nice your doctor is, your naturopath, your dietitian, whoever it is, I guarantee you they're not laying in bed worrying about your health. You should be. And so once you've accepted responsibility for your own health and you understand that it's important to make some changes, we've got to look at setting goals and how to set goals. We'll talk about that maybe later in this episode. But I want to first probably start, before we get into some of the real details of it all, I want to talk about some of the actual things we're talking about of these necessary good behaviors that are connected to living well. Obviously, the first one is healthy eating. There's a biblical principle, and it's found throughout the Old and the New Testament. I want to look at that in just a second. There's a biblical principle that food is a divine instruction. Eating is a divine instruction. It's not something that we just invented and decided to do. No, we were instructed to eat. And like anything in this world that is the remnants of a fractured and broken creation, there is a spectrum of anything and everything. And so there's a end of the spectrum that is good and an end that is bad, and then there's everything in between. So one of the things that are very important if you are looking to live well is to eat healthy. Eating a balanced and varied diet is vital for living well. Food provides our bodies with energy, protein, essential fats, vitamins, and minerals to live, to grow, and to function properly. Our body, I took anatomy and physiology, back in college, and it was absolutely astonishing how many systems make up the human being. And these systems have to work together in order to have things, functional. And it's important to choose the most nutritious food as possible to meet your needs, to help you live well. With more and more foods available in our food supply, there tends to be a large amount of energy for a small amount of nutrition. And this is making it even more difficult for us to eat healthy, because what ends up happening is basically we're getting too much energy into our diets, into our lives, and we're not getting enough exercise or demand for exercise to burn that energy, and so that energy converts to basically fat, in both fat and basically bad sugars. So eating healthy becomes more and more difficult. Now, what's interesting is that when you look at the Bible gives us a very interesting principle in 1 Corinthians chapter 10 and verse 31. The Apostle Paul says, whatever you eat or whatever you drink or whatever you do all to the glory of God. And so the idea here is that if you can eat and drink to the glory of God, it is also very possible to eat and drink to the dishonor of God. And so Paul is making the point that don't be on the end of the extreme with what you're putting into your body is a dishonor to God. Go to the other end of the spectrum and put into your body what glorifies God. Now, the interesting thing with food is that, the age-old saying, my mum used to say this when I was a kid, you are what you eat. If you don't eat anything but junk, then you will be a junky person, and so on and so on. And the reality is that science has more and more and more validated that point, that literally what you are eating, it's being assimilated into your body and it's becoming who you are. And this can be good and it also can be bad. And so I guess the first principle here, in the new year, in your health experiment, do your best to make healthy choices. And these healthy choices don't have to be complex. For me personally, and again, I'm not suggesting this is perfect for you, but this is for me, I'm choosing to eat more whole foods. These are foods that are less processed, because what it basically turns out to be is that the more processed a food is, the more energy content it has, which basically turns into an excess in your body, which results in bad things happening in your body, as it has in mine. And so by choosing to eat foods that are closer to their original state, more like whole foods or having complex carbohydrates, meaning not refined foods, that's one of the first steps I'm taking in this new year to live well. Time to take a short break now. When we come back, we're going to continue this conversation about living well. And don't forget, I have a code word coming up very soon for today's giveaway.
The Faith Experiment is made possible because of people like you. If you enjoy what we are doing, please consider supporting us by making a donation on our website at faithfm.com.au/donate.
Hear the voice of love that's calling. There's a chair that waits for you, and a friend who understands everything you're going through. But you keep standing at a distance, in the shadows of your shame. But there's a light of hope that's shining. Won't you come and take your place? and bring it all to the table. It's nothing he ain't seen before. For all your sin, all your sorrow and your sadness, there's a Savior and he calls, bring it all to the table. He can see the weight you carry and the fears that hold your heart. But through the cross you've been forgiven. You're accepted as you are. And bring it all to the table. It's nothing he ain't seen before. For all your trials, all your worries and your burdens, oh, there's a Savior and he calls, bring it all to the table. And come on in, take your place. There's no one who's turned away. All you sinners, all you saints, come right in and find your grace. Come on in, take your place. There's no one who's turned away. All you sinners, all you saints, come right in and find your grace and bring it all to the table. It's nothing he ain't seen before. For all your sin, all your sorrow and your sadness, there's a Savior and he calls, bring it all to the table.
You're listening to The Faith Experiment with Robbie Berghan, right across Australia, right here on Faith FM.
Welcome back to The Faith Experiment. This is episode number 59, and I'm calling this episode Living Well. And on this episode, we are exploring the idea that there is a connection between our physical being as well as our spiritual being. And on this faith experiment, on this particular episode, we are looking at health experiments. We're talking about how that the Bible says that as our souls prosper, so too should our health. And we've been looking at some of the examples of what health is. And health is not just the absence of disease, it is also the completeness of our body, mind, and spirit. And before the break, I was talking about the only person really responsible for your health is you. There's no one else. Other people can say they have a concern. Some people can express some concern. But at the end of the day, you're the only person that's going to really make a difference for. And therefore, it is your responsibility. If you'd like to live well, if you'd like to live healthier and longer and be around a bit more for your family, your children, your spouse, then you need to take action wherever you are in this health experiment that you call life and that I call life. So before the break, we looked at one of the first things that we can tackle, which is healthy eating. And essentially today, our bodies have always needed energy, protein, essential fats, vitamins and minerals to grow and to function. But as I said before the break, it's become more and more in your daily shopping basket. If you go to your grocery store, most of the stuff you are buying, and I'm buying, it has large amounts of energy and small amounts of nutrition. And the result of that is that we are becoming unhealthy. We're gaining more weight than we need because our bodies are storing the excess energy in the forms of fat or in fatty blood, and that's raising all sorts of elevated levels in our body, which are all unhealthy. Now, let's talk about the next thing that you can do this year to experiment with improving your life standard, and that is the age-old health principle of exercise. There is so much research that absolutely proves without a shadow of a doubt that if you can decrease the amount of time you are sitting around and not exercising and increase the amount of time you are exercising, you are going to improve tremendously in the way that you feel and the way that your body functions. You know, it's not uncommon for most of us to spend 3 to 4 hours a day commuting. Then on top of that, we have an 8-hour day sitting at the desk. And then we spend 6 to 8 hours a night sleeping in a bed. None of that leaves much room for incidental physical movement, let alone planned physical activity. And all of this has been studied out by numerous studies and shown that this is related to the increase in chronic diseases. So, what can you practically do to experiment this year in exercise? Well, I'll tell you what I'm doing. And again, I'm not saying this is what everyone needs to do, but this is what I'm doing. In addition to trying to eat less processed food and more whole foods, in the exercise realm, I'm trying to get 30 minutes of walking in the first 30 minutes that I wake up. And what that has meant for me personally, because I have young children, is I have to get up before they get up to spend 30 minutes, and I'm just doing a treadmill. I don't have the ability to go walking around the neighborhood or any of those sorts of things. So I'm literally getting out of my bed 30 minutes before my kids normally wake up and then going to the treadmill. And the upside is I actually get to listen to my favorite podcasts and different sort of audio books for 30 minutes before any distraction from the family. And so this is my goal this year, to get 30 minutes exercise per day and to eat less processed foods and eat more whole foods. So what's the third area that we can experiment with? That is water. We all know water is essential to life. Without water, human beings can't survive, obviously. And so obviously it's essential for achieving our good health to ensure that we're drinking water. And I think most people learnt in basic high school science that the human body is made up largely of water. And excluding the water we drink, we also get water from the foods and from other drinks that we drink. Now, not all fluids are created equal. Drinks with added sugar, alcohol or caffeine, that should be limited, if not avoided completely, because all of these are going to increase the sugar content into our diet, which is the problem that we're trying to face with the healthy eating and with the exercise. So this is the third thing that I'm trying this year, is I have gone off juices. Now, I didn't drink alcohol. I haven't drunk alcohol for a number of years. And I stopped drinking caffeine a number of years ago as well. But what I have been drinking is a lot of juices. I haven't been drinking like the we call them fizzy drinks or the soda drinks, whatever you call them. I haven't been drinking those so much as I've been drinking juices, because I sort of rationalize away, well, it's just a great big glass of freshly squeezed orange juice, when the reality is it came from a shopping center and it's probably been sitting there for about 2 or 3 weeks, and it is pumped with everything in addition to the couple of oranges that are in there, or grape juice or kiwi fruit juice or whatever the juice is. It's, in my case, it's just been contributing to the high sugar content into my diet, which is creating bad problems. So I've just gone, you know what? Let me just try it. Let me just go water. From time to time, I'll have carbonated water. So I'll take water. I've got one of those, those, I don't know what they call them. You put them in, you press the button, and it carbonates your water. It makes it all fizzy. So I've got one of those. I do that occasionally. I know it's not super great for you, but I like bubbles every now and then. But this is one of the other areas that I'm experimenting with this year. So eating less processed food. I'm trying to get 30 minutes of exercise in, and I'm trying to drink nothing but water. And I've tried to increase the amount of water that I'm drinking. I did an interview on one of the Faith FM shows last year with a lady, Joy, her name was, and she was talking about how much water you should drink and the importance of water and those sorts of things. And that stuck with me, and I've been trying to implement that in this new year as well. Let's go to number 4. Number 4 is sleep. Now, this is probably the one that I have absolutely disregarded my entire life. I hate sleeping. And when I am asleep, if you can call it that, I feel like I'm solving problems and constructing new creations in my sleep. And I don't feel very rested personally, ever. And I've tried different things, all the different types of natural sleeping pills and teas and all that sort of stuff, but it doesn't seem to make any difference for me. But what I have found is there's a lot of things that I do and have been doing that aren't conducive to sleeping well. And so in trying to increase the amount of time I sleep, I'm looking at the things that I can do to stop affecting my sleep poorly. Some people call this sleep hygiene. And the big one for me is the use of computers or phone, basically screens, TV, screen, phone, whatever it is, screens. And the research tells me that using a screen within the 30 minutes before you're trying to go to bed, it's going to basically keep you alert. And I could get into the science that I've read. I'm not an expert in this stuff, but basically it messes with your brain wave patterns and things like that, alpha patterns or whatever it is, and basically keeps your mind active. And so the idea is that if you stop using a screen about 30 minutes before you want to go to sleep, then you've got a better chance of having a deeper sleep when you go to bed to go to sleep. I've spent my whole life working with computers in some shape or form, and I normally will finish working with them and then literally go straight to bed from turning the screen off, and I can never ever sleep. So I don't know if this is going to work. I'll give you an update at the end of the year and let you know if this works, but I'm giving that a shot. I mean, how hard is it? I've set an alarm on my phone for what time I'd like to get to sleep each night, and I've set it for 30 minutes before that, and so the alarm says, get off the screen. So I'm giving that a shot. Now, maybe that's not your problem. Maybe you sleep too much. I don't know. But sleep is something that's very, very important. How much we need, I've seen a number of really interesting podcasts with sleep experts, and they've all said the same thing. Basically, you need 8 hours of sleep minimum. Doesn't matter how much you think you need, no matter how well you survive on less. The experts tell me you need 8 hours of sleep. So I'm trying to do a couple of changes to ensure that I can do the best to sleep. Oh, by the way, another one with sleep that I've just recently found out is that you sleep better if your room is cooler. And, living in Queensland, I often sleep in a very warm room. So what I've tried to do is I've tried to put the aircon for about those first 30 minutes before I go to bed. So when the alarm goes off, I put the screen down, I turn the aircon on, cool the room down, and then turn the aircon off and hop into bed 30 minutes later. And so far, it seems to be making a difference. Now, whether that's just coincidence, we'll find out in 12 months from now. But that's the fourth thing I'm trying. So eating less processed food, trying to get 30 minutes exercise every morning before the kids wake up, trying to drink nothing but water in my case. In your case, maybe it's just trying to drink a bit more water. And I'm trying to improve my sleep routine to create a better environment for sleeping longer. Well, that's some of the things I'm doing. After the break, we'll come back and I will share with you a few more things that I'm trying out this year in my health experiment. Because the Bible teaches that as our souls prosper, so too should our health. So I hope that you will join me on this health experiment this year in 2023. So I'll take a short break now. When we come back, we'll continue with episode 59, Living Well.
If you have enjoyed this episode of The Faith Experiment, please help us get the word out by sharing our podcast with your friends and family. And don't forget to like us on Facebook.
Don't be afraid. It's time to answer, we will go. It's time to take a stand. It's time to show our allegiance to angels and to men. Let's honor God and lift Him up. Let's stand for the truth. We were born at this time to give Him glory. Whatever it takes, we know it'll be worth it. Whatever the cost, we know heaven's cheap enough. Whatever the trial or test, we'll endure them till the end. 'Cause Jesus promises that we'll be saved. We will stand whatever the cost for God's word and for the Lamb. We will follow Him wherever He goes, even unto death. Even if we lose our lives, let's endure till the end. 'Cause it'll only be a moment till we'll see Him again. Whatever it takes, we know it'll be worth it. Whatever the cost, we know heaven's cheap enough. Whatever the trial or test, we'll endure them till the end. 'Cause Jesus promises that we'll be saved. Let's be faithful for our moment.
This is The Faith Experiment with Robbie Berghan, right here on Faith FM.
Welcome back to the Faith Experiment. This is episode number 59. I'm Robbie Berghan, and I'm calling this episode Living Well. And that song before the break was Whatever It Takes by my sister, Candace Berghan. On this episode, we are exploring health. There's a biblical correlation between your soul prospering, that's the spiritual health, and your body prospering or your health prospering. And so on this episode, we've explored this idea of what actually is health. Health is not just the absence of disease, it is the completeness of body, mind, and spirit. There's a biblical principle that Jesus laid in John chapter 10 and verse 10. He said, I am come that they, this is his followers, or those that believe in him, that they might have life and that they might have it more abundantly. And this is a fascinating verse. It's fascinated me for years because this idea of Jesus saying that the life that he wants you to have, it might be more abundant, means that it's better than the life that you currently have. And what's fascinating is that he uses this word in the Greek language that is literally translatable into English as superior. And it's not just superior in terms of, well, it's superior to the life you have, that's a given. It's superior in two elements. It's superior in quantity and it's superior in quality. And so if we plug that into the translation, we would read it this way. It would say, Jesus speaking, I am come that they might have life. And what kind of life is it? And that they might have it, that life, more superior in quantity and in quality. And so throughout the scriptures, there is this connection between the physical and the spiritual realm. Now, obviously, we know the faith experiment is based on faith. It's an experiment regarding and trusting in these ancient manuscripts that what they say they can do can actually be done in our own individual lives, and that the God who authored the book has the evidence to prove his existence and demonstrate his existence by transforming your life. That's the premise of it spiritually. But equally, there is an experiment to be done in the health area of our life, or in the physical realm of our life. And so on this episode, we're looking at some of the things that you can do along with me, or I'm doing them, and I hope you join me, to improve in the way that we live, hence the title, Living Well, in not just this week or this month or this year, but in this life. So before the break, I share with you a couple of areas that I'm experimenting with in this new year. The first one was eating healthy. I'm trying to eat more whole foods, just meaning that they're less processed, because the more processed food is, generally speaking, there is a higher level of energy in that food, which basically translates into excess sugars in your body or energy in your body, which is not necessarily a good thing if you're not burning enough energy in your daily movement, which leads to the second thing, which is exercise. Most of us aren't exercising intentionally, and most of us aren't getting enough movement incidentally, meaning the way we go throughout our day. And that's why this whole 10,000 step movement thing has become a bit of a fad. Everyone's like, if I can get my 10,000 steps in, I'm ticking the box. The reality is, for some people, they don't need that much, and for some people, they need a whole lot more. I've seen some very interesting research on the 10,000 thing, but as an average, it's a good target to aim for. For me personally, I am aiming to do 30 minutes of walking on my treadmill every single morning. That's my goal, and we'll see how we go with that. The third thing is water. We don't get enough of it, normally speaking, and if you are just getting your water out of other drinks, you're not getting enough of the real deal. You're getting other things in that water, whether it be caffeine, alcohol, or sugar. So I'm trialing this idea of just trying to drink just water. And then the next thing I'm trialing to do is to improve my quality of sleep. We need to get about 8 hours of sleep to be ideal and to function ideally. And so with that, there's some things you can do to improve the quality of your sleep by preparing for it. It's not a matter of just saying, well, it's 10 o'clock, need to go to bed. It's about saying, well, 10 o'clock is coming, it's 8 o'clock or 9 o'clock. What can I do to start preparing for it? Maybe it's turning the TV off, getting away from your computer, putting your phone down. Maybe it's cooling your room. Maybe it's forming a bit of a bedtime ritual that triggers the body into going, hey, it's time to wind down, it's time for bed. Whatever it is, the idea is to try and improve the quality of your sleep and also the quantity of your sleep. So that was before the break. Let's talk about some of the other things I'm trying this year. The next one is sunshine. Now, this one, living in Australia, I've grown up with mixed messages on this, to be honest. I'm sure some of you will identify with growing up with that, I think it was the Queensland government or the federal government, I don't know who did it, but there was an ad program on the TV when I was a kid. It was Slip, Slop, Slap. Slip on a shirt, I think it was slop on some sunscreen and slap on a hat, something like that. I probably got it wrong, but you can correct me. Text me in 04 888 45311. Let me know what the actual song was about, but I'm pretty sure that's what it was. And the idea is to avoid the sun at all cost. And, I've done pretty well. I've gotten to my mid-40s. I've never had any problem with sun cancer. Sunburnt a couple of times, nothing significant. We're told that if you get sunburnt once, it's kind of detrimental. It's interesting. I've been to other cultures and lived in other countries where they just love to get tanned and darkened by the sun. But anyway, different cultures, different things. I've been told it's because of the angle we live on and all that sort of stuff that it's more detrimental in Australia and New Zealand. But the reality is, whether it's because of that or not, I don't know, and I'm not professing to be an expert on this, but vitamin D is linked to sunlight, and we all need vitamin D. Vitamin D is very important for your having healthy bones and immune system. But the reality is that the vast majority of Australians and New Zealanders are vitamin D deficient. Now, you could theorize the reasons for that. Maybe it's because of the sunscreen or the hats, or whatever it is, or we just don't like the sun in general. But whatever it is, we are vitamin D deficient. And so some of the research that I have read tells me that if you can get out into the sun for about 10 to 15 minutes a day, you will get a good dose of vitamin D. Now, if you're very, very deficient, you're going to need to probably get some supplements into your body to raise the level of vitamin D, because from what I'm told, 10 minutes a day, if you're deficient, isn't really going to get you into a good, healthy space. So you might have supplements in addition to the sunlight. But anyway, in my case, what I'm trying to do is get about 10 minutes a day out in the sun. And, I've got a lot of opportunities to do that. I can sometimes be over lunch. I can go outside, eat my lunch outside. If I'm traveling, instead of at an airport, instead of sitting, in the middle of the food court or in the lounge, wherever it is, I could sit closer to where you get the glass windows are and get some sun that way. I'm just trying to look for opportunities to get about 10 minutes of sun a day. Now, look, I'm sharing all these principles as something that I've learned as having value, and I'm trying to put into practice in my life. But I'm not trying to create a new regiment here. I'm not trying to create a new sort of detailed liturgy of how we put together this, and we got to do 10 minutes of that and 30 minutes of that. All I'm saying is this is how I'm looking to fit it into my life. For some of you may have to do less. Some others may need more. I don't know. Go consult a health professional, because I'm not one. But I've got some smart friends. I've done a lot of reading, and these are the things that have been suggested that I put into place in my own health experiment. Next one, fresh air. This was surprising to me, that the vast majority of us do not breathe deeply. We breathe very shallowly. And the thing that surprised me was when I was introduced to breathing exercises, they're only like 10 minutes of breathing exercises, I nearly died trying to breathe deep. And it shocked me how little or how shallow I breathe. And, most people around me, when I've asked them to think about how they're breathing, it's also shallow. And so the idea here is to try and get more fresh air into our bodies. And that's really literally just doing some breathing exercises. It doesn't take that long. And what I've found is it's caused me to actually breathe a bit deeper. So you want to know how to do breathing exercises, go YouTube it. There's plenty of people being gurus in that space trying to teach people how to do it. It's not that complicated. Basically, stand up straight, breathe in, hold it, breathe out, breathe in, breathe out, that sort of thing. You can find a lot of examples on how to do the actual thing, but you want to get more oxygen into your blood. That's the point. Now, the great thing with these things so far is that you can get the fresh air and the deep breathing by exercising. If you're exercising out in the sun, then you're getting 3 things for the price of 1. And then if you follow that up or have the water before or after the exercise, then you're getting the water. It actually makes you feel more sleepy in the evening, and you sleep better. And then you want to eat healthier because you want to have the energy to keep doing what you're doing. So it's actually quite interesting. As I've been experimenting with this, it's all sort of interconnected. And so it's not a real big burden, is the point I'm trying to make. Now, the last one is the spiritual connection. As I've mentioned before, 3 John chapter 1, verse 2, as our souls prosper, that's our spiritual realm, so too should our health prosper. And so what I would like to really encourage you as you're listening to this little sort of faith journey, faith experiment in a health context, I want you to really remember this point. If you want to have the optimal running of your human machinery, which is your body, you need to consult the manufacturer. And the manufacturer is God himself. The book of Genesis opens up with the instruction that you should eat of every tree in the garden, except for the one that's bad for your health, spiritually speaking. And then after the great fall, the great rebellion, the humans joining the rebellion against God, then we see God telling them that now you need to eat the herbs of the ground, which is your vegetables. And then later on we're instructed that, okay, so after the flood, there is the opportunity now to eat clean meat. But strikingly, it's almost like God says, you can do this, but there's consequences to it. And from that point on, the genealogies are astoundingly impacted. Meaning before the flood, before the introduction of flesh food into the diet, there was longer life. After the introduction of flesh food, there was markedly shorter lives. And so now we get to the New Testament and we get this teaching of, hey, listen, whatever you eat, whatever you drink, do all to the glory of God. As your soul prospers, so to show your health. And so the point I'm trying to make is that don't try and do or be a healthy person or try and implement all these healthy behaviors without consulting the manufacturer. I think too many times we try as humans to, take the optimal care of the body and achieve amazing things with our bodies without consulting the manufacturer. And that's why I think most of us fail. The Bible says that we can do all things through Christ who strengthens us. And in the context, that verse has got nothing to do with your health. It's got nothing to do with your exercising or eating healthy or your drinking more water or sleep. But I tell you what it does teach. It teaches that you have access to a power that is supernatural. So why not ask? Well, I mentioned at the top of the show that I have this great giveaway called Food as Medicine for you. It's a great little booklet that gives you some really interesting and practical tips about eating well and food that can be used as medicine in your home to help achieve that optimal health of your body so that you will live well. If you'd like to claim today's free offer, take out your phone now and text the code word, the hash symbol, so that's hash, followed by FE and then 59. That's hash FE59. Text that through to the Faith Experiment number on 04 888 453 11. That's 04 888 453 11. Code word is hash FE59. Our SMS bot will ask you for some details and we will get that book out to you as soon as possible. Well, that's all I have time for in this episode. Let me know what you thought of this episode. Did you like it? Would you like more health-related topics in the future? Text me in 04 888 453 11 and I will see you on the next episode of The Faith Experiment.
You have been listening to The Faith Experiment with Robbie Berghan, right across Australia, right here on Faith FM. Connect with us via text message on 04 888 453 11. That's 04 888 453 11. Or send an email to robbie@faithfm.com.au and let us know what you thought of this episode.
Hello there, this is Robbie. It's a bonus. Just letting you know that I am on the road again in 2024 and I am going to be taking the Faith Experiment to various towns, capital cities, and regional centers right around this great country of ours. To stay up to date, subscribe to our Facebook page and check out faithfm.com.au/events. And let's see if we can meet up in your town.